We're here today with Justin Hiniker. Justin is currently the director of the Disability Resource and Support Center for Colorado State University-Pueblo. Since starting at the university in 2013, Justin oversees student requests for adjustments to academic and co-curricular courses, programs, events, and services. He also oversees accommodated testing, creation of accessible course materials, and a note-taker program for students with disabilities. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Justin.
Thanks for having me.
Justin, could you please share with us how accommodations impact a student's educational experiences and overall success in college?
Definitely. So when we're teaching students about whatever content it is that we're talking about, history, art, business, the whole goal is to educate them in order so that they can participate in their career field, right? Where accommodations come in is making that course content accessible to a group of students that might not otherwise have access to that material. So if that is a student who's deaf, and we're talking in discussion groups, we need to make sure that we're providing for effective communication so that that student who's deaf can still participate in the conversation at the same time as everybody else. There's some students who have trouble reading our course materials. And so we can provide different formats of those materials so that they can still participate. It's all about bringing our students to the table and making sure that everybody who wants to be in the classroom, who wants to be part of the learning environment and part of that experience is able to do so.
Great. So we've all kind of moved to a different table recently. What's the difference between the accommodations that you've been making in face-to-face classes versus online classes?
Yeah, so we've had to rethink a lot of how we're providing those services and how we're accomplishing accessibility, how we're accomplishing inclusivity for our students. So one way that I've been navigating this is with our note-taker program. Some of our students have great difficulty in tracking what's being said and recording that in a note format for themselves. And so what we've done in person is hire students who are either in that class or are available to go to that class to take the notes. Since we've gone online, we've been trying to figure out how do we create that access for our student employee, for the note taker that's going to the class. And so what we've done is work with instructors to make sure that the student note taker can still access the Zoom, providing the link to the Zoom course. Sometimes if the student's already in there, already part of the class, then what we're trying to figure out is how do we get the notes from that note taker to the student who needs those notes. And one thing we've done is have the note taker email me the notes so we can maintain the student's anonymity, and I would forward the notes on to the student who needs them. Another area of concern for a lot of instructors is proctoring for exams. And so one thing I was working with somebody on is a concern regarding, well, if students with disabilities are getting more time to take exams, are we concerned about their ability to search for answers online if we're not using formal proctoring services? And so we're trying to figure out ways to make sure we're fair to everybody and limiting opportunities to use unapproved aids in order to, for them to get better grades. And so I was discussing with an instructor, we may need to look at, if you're not proctoring the rest of the class who don't have accommodations, there's no need to proctor the group that does have them. And so working through some of those legal components, but also being equitable and fair. And if we have a concern that there's cheating going on, we need to engage in some of the processes that we have in place for that. So changing up testing is another area. I talked about proctoring, but also changing in the system. If we're setting up for students to have an hour for a test, we might need to make adjustments for individual students who need additional time. And so going into Blackboard or whatever system we're using to make those individual adjustments. A lot of what my office has been doing, we've been pushing to go more electronic and online for the past few years. And so things like course materials, we're able to push out to students in electronic formats through email or G Drive or gosh, what's the other one I'm using? I'm using some different cloud services in order to store information and provide access to students in that way.
Well, it sounds like accessibility is heavily rooted in social justice and equity issues for students. And these are very important issues to address on campus. How would faculty find out if they have students who need accommodations in their course?
Sure. So in the past, what we've done for the on-campus in-person classes is the student with a disability would provide a letter of notice or a letter of accommodation to their instructor that would identify what adjustment we need to make for the course. Now that we're online or doing more remote learning, what I'm doing is getting notified by the student, and then I would email the instructors for the courses which we need to make adjustments for. I'm emailing instructors with what adjustments we need to make. The email identifies who the student is, what adjustments are needed, as well as contact information for myself. So if there's any questions, the instructor knows how to get a hold of me so that we can talk through when it says making sure that course materials are accessible. What does that mean? And is what I'm using accessible? And if I'm using videos, is that included in course materials? Things like that. So they're getting notified by email a lot. I'm also including, in some cases, with our extended studies courses, I'm including staff from that office as well to assist with making sure that the materials are accessible, that instructors are notified, that testing adjustments are made for time, and making sure that any other needs we have in that area are being supported. Because those extended studies courses, correspondence and whatnot, sometimes are structured a little differently than our residential instruction courses. So just making sure that everybody is notified who needs to be notified, and making sure that the students' needs are acknowledged, and we make those adaptations for them.
So it sounds like at the base of all of this is just trying to support our students the best way that we can and making sure that they're all getting a fair shake at their education here at CSUP. How can our faculty learn more about how to deliver accessible instruction and create accessible materials?
Definitely. So I'm, of course, a resource here, as well as I believe Denise is another great resource as well. A lot of our IT staff are. But definitely when instructors are seeing those accommodations that they're unsure how to meet those, how to make those adjustments, I definitely recommend reaching out to me, either through email, through phone. I tell everybody that smoke signals and carrier pigeons maybe aren't the best ways, but any of the conventional formats of communication, I'm more than happy to work with instructors and staff to make sure that documents that we're using are accessible to various technologies, screen readers and whatnot. And also making sure that videos we're posting are captioned, that there's transcripts, that there's different formats or different ways we can engage with the materials that we're using, so that students with various sensory challenges are able to still participate. I love being a resource. I love being available to answer questions, and I'm definitely willing to work, willing and would love to work with instructors to make sure that what we're doing is going to be accessible to everybody, that everybody's going to be able to participate, and make sure that we're doing what we need to do by the book too.
Thank you so much for your work, Justin, for our students and for supporting our faculty. You can read more about creating accessible course experiences at CSU Pueblo by clicking the link to the blog post in this video's description.
Thank you, Justin.
Thanks, Justin.
Thank you.